Back again.
All right. So how much of that went through?
I think we all got cut off at the same time.
Oh, wonderful. Okay.
But the main thing is, desensitization is usually where you're trying to fatigue the nerve endings. Masking is covering it up. So technically, that's not true.
Okay. Okay.
But I have a feeling I'm going to be getting some questions on this.
Yeah. It's well, and that's the thing that I kind of like about your classes. I mean, and that's the thing that I kind of like about audiology in general is like you do have some things that are cut and dry, but there are a lot of things that you can, I mean, with explanation, you can justify your answers. You know, that this is the way I did. I just talked about how like we looked at people's stuff and it's like, man, I can't figure out why they did that. But then after you talk to them, oh, I get it. Oh, I can see why they came to that correlation. And it makes sense to me.
And in some of them, if I see that the question just really was confusing or, something like that, I give partial credit. I mean, I'm not out to screw the student because I want you to know this stuff. But, desensitization is one part where they're trying to present this and then take it away and your tinnitus is not there. Now, secondary desensitization does occur with some masking, but it's not really considered part of the masking approach. Okay. Virginia gets back in here.
Hi, Virginia.
There you are. Okay. Virginia, one of the things I was saying is the desensitization is not defined because that's basically desensitization is presenting a stimulus designed to fatigue or desensitize the noise and then taking it away. Masking is presenting the tone or presenting the signal to cover the tinnitus.
Okay.
And there is some secondary habitualization that is like desensitization. So as Jess was saying, when you take the 8 out at night, I really don't notice the ringing. Well, that's sort of like until you lay down and you lay there long enough, it's like your eyes adjusting to the dark room, your hearing will start picking up the ringing inside your head again as you're getting used to the no noise there. But they are really two separate concepts. Bain is talking about normal hearing is basically masking the tinnitus with your ability to pick up ambient sounds. Is that true or false?
True.
True.
Yeah, and we went over this before.
Everybody has natural head noise.
That's right. Is it a big deal or not to have the spouse or someone with the patient when they come in?
Big deal.
Oh, it's a big deal. Huge.
Huge deal. Having a familiar voice, having, and I love it when you get somebody that says, oh, I don't need to bring anybody. You say, okay, if you have trouble hearing somebody, bring them along. And the person sits there and you go, okay, talk to the patient. I just set this up, talk to them. And they go, I was wondering, a lot of times when we're sitting, we're watching television, and you're going,
and you're like, what?
Well, okay, now we know what the problem is. And this is one of the perfect ways of illustrating this is with a speech mapping. You show them how loud it really should be, and you show that when you talk in a normal tone of voice, you're hitting that mark. And you say, you are talking in a whisper. So I can boost it so your voice will sound fine, but then everybody else will sound like that. Yeah, to give them the reference one to the other.
It's a really nice counseling tool, I find, for I mean, even if you're talking to, the patient and the companion, you've got the companion there and you can counsel that companion on proper speaking habits, ways that, direct line of sight, saying somebody's name before you start to speak, all those things that are so important, and encouraging the patient that that's not something that they need to be embarrassed about doing when they're out and about too. I mean, like, you have to understand that this is just a thing that this is a thing that you're going through, and you need to not be afraid to say to the person that you're talking to, I'm sorry, I need a direct line of sight. I can't understand you when you look away. I mean, those are things that you shouldn't always have to be shy about saying.
And attention and focus is huge. I had a patient who was saying, my wife thinks I'm ignoring her every time she talks to me. I mean, I don't catch all of it. And I said, what are you doing when she talks to you? He says, well, I'm watching TV or I'm reading the paper. I go, okay. And I look at the wife. And this is another reason to have the spouse there. And I said, do you say his name before you start talking to him? No. Okay. If you're reading a book and it's a good book, yeah. Of course, you always get somebody that goes, I don't read books. All right, let's go to something else. But guys, you're reading a book and you're really into that book, or you're watching a movie and you're really into that movie, and the person says, you want to go to dinner? What's your first reaction? Huh?
What?
Exactly. Because your focus is there, and you have to pull it back in and focus there. I'm not saying you have to look that way, but this has to shift what it's paying attention to. So if you go, Billy, what? Blah, 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 blah. You're going to have much less whats and hahs, and could you repeat that? Get his attention first. And if saying his name doesn't work, throw a Nerf ball at him. Or something. And they'll go, oh, that's funny, But that's the thing. You want to have them realize this is not life or death. You're trying to make life easier for both of them. And that's part of it. Okay, let's see. All right. And you remember back in the 70s, ASHA decided that audiologists really should not sell hearing aids because we would have a conflict of interest because we'd be making a profit on it. They did. You would lose your clinical certification if you fit hearing aids for a profit. Well, first, if you fit hearing aids, period. Then they changed it in the late 70s, or later 70s, that you could sell hearing aids, but you couldn't make a profit. You had to sell it for no profit. To which I responded, have these people never been in business? What's the definition of profit?
Your money above your revenue.
Your money above your costs.
Well, revenue after costs.
And what do your costs include?
Salary, overhead, building, marketing.
All your equipment.
Which is your profit margin.
Right.
If I buy something for $10 and sell it for $30 because I have to inventory it, make sure it's functional, and and I have to pay for the lights and the rent and everything else.
What, you mean that needs electricity?
Yes, like electricity and and shelter and clothing. Unless you're in a nudist colony, you don't need clothing. Well, that's another thing.
Nobody comes and sees you if you're in a nudist colony.
I don't want you to see my ear. Oh, okay. Anyway, but this is the thing. What is a profit? And I was like, okay, so I'm going to add in on the cost of a hearing aid, all of the other things, minus my salary, because I'm going to charge for a clinical visit, or including my salary, because it's part of it, And am I selling it for a profit? No. So that kind of fell by the wayside within a year, year and a half, because everybody was walking around it. ASHA can be kind of dumb sometimes. Okay. Do you remember who was the first one to make the measurements of loudness and pitch matching for tinnitus? Remember, I went to that concert with my pet chicken, Charlie. And how did I use that as a way to remember the name of the researcher?
I'm going to come up with it. I just got to think about it. It's right there.
What type of bird? A chicken. What's another way of referring to a chicken or a duck?
Fowl.
Fowler. That was how I always remembered it.
Fowler.
Those assistive listening devices, those cheap hearing aids that people can pick up at the CVS.
They don't do that.
Do they have really poor bass frequency response?
They've got poor everything.
They usually have poor high frequency response. Now going back to our original course like a year and a half ago, what was the peak frequency for most hearing aids before they started finding ways to mimic the canal resonance response? That 1800 hertz. So you got plenty of bass and mid, but you didn't get the consonants. That's why hearing aids had problems.
2700 hertz?
That's when you started going up 27, 28, 29, getting it closer to 3K. The cheap hearing aids that most people buy are straight amplifiers in most cases, or they have low-level components. So you're going to have a lot of bass, but not much treble. So basically go through the previous quizzes, go through the notes that we have, make sure you count out the number of zeros after the number, so you know the difference between 35,000 and 300, or 35 million and 350 million and 350,000. So when you're looking at percentages, if the question is asking for a percentage, don't give the number value, give the percentage value. I've had people do both. So this is the kind of thing that I want you to look at. This is the kind of thing that I want you to be aware of. And most of the material I'm pulling from the previous quizzes.
Okay.
All right.
Quizzes from this semester, though, right?
From this semester.
Okay.
Because I have reviewed almost everything from the previous 3 classes that I've worked with you guys, and I put that material into the quizzes from this semester. So pretty much everything's there.
Okay. As like a recap of everything we've done.
Uh-huh. So I'm giving you the smorgasbord. Not like not the Star Trek Borg, the smorgasbord. No, that's different. Okay.
And we're back to puns. Full circle.
Full circle. Okay. Well, at least it wasn't 2/3 of a pun. Okay. But all of these things are important. All of these things are factors. If you're comfortable with this field, you're going to be able to focus more on rehabilitating the patient. That's the key. Because rehabilitating the patient is going to give you the sale and give you the patient for life to keep your practice open. Another table. All right. I know, Virginia, you're going to get this over to your daughter and tell her not to panic. And where in New Jersey were you training?
At Oticon.
Oh,
New
awesome.
Jersey. Yeah, I pretty much work for Oticon, and I like the company. I mean, they put me through my own sales training, the whole 9 yards, and they have great people there on staff, and
They really do.
I like the company.
Love Oticon. I mean, my new practice I got in there like, we don't do very much Oticon. I was like, no, don't make me do Starkey. But I'm going to learn.
well, here's the thing, and I found this in many instances. Starkey has probably one of the best feedback resistant circuit programs. Their algorithm for feedback reduction is probably the best on the market.
Yeah.
And it's easy to read because you see it, you measure it, you know that it's probably going to be pretty safe. You don't have to worry if the patient, and sometimes if I'm doing the feedback measurement, I'll have the patient do this, just to get a little bit of jaw action in there to create any slit vents that may be possible. Most of the time, you'll never have a problem, and you can give them some really nice gain. The only problem I've seen with the Starkeys is they have a little bit of a harshness to them, and the noise floor is a little high. Oticon, very smooth response, very quiet circuit. The circuit noise is like virtually non-existent.
Silent.
But their feedback resistance, they've got this one glitch, and I'm sure that you learned about it. If you run that feedback program where it's presenting the signal,
It doesn't do the adaptive.
The adaptive disappears.
Yeah. I wish that I really wish that hopefully in their next line, they figure out a way to combine those two, because I love the idea of running a feedback manager in office. I hate the idea of sending a patient home with something that says, well, you'll have feedback now, but it should get better. You're going to whistle now, but it should get better. And,
yeah.
But what if it doesn't?
And GN Resound, they have an excellent feedback resistance system. They were the first ones to come out with the DFS, the digital feedback suppression, which was a hybrid circuit, both digital and analog, for a power unit. And that was back in the 90s. 1890, no. But it was something where you ran that noise and you had the hearing aid turned up higher than you would normally have the VC when you turned it on. And then you would turn it back to the functional level, and people would end up getting about 10 dB more functional gain than they were able to get with any other analog unit or any other aid that was on the market at that point. The problem that they have is when it does the reading, it draws a line and it lowers certain channels and certain bands, but it doesn't really give you a clear cut what you should do and what you shouldn't do. If you could run, and this was, I agree with you, Jesse, on this. Why does it sound like a slinky? Anyway,
Yep.
But if you were able to run the line on the Oticon, so you have that nice notch or whatever where the feedback is occurring, left the adaptive functioning, and you go in and you can just modify the frequencies to try to get the maximum Okay, I'm cutting it here, so I'm going to boost it here just to counter that. I'm going to give you a little bit more at 1500 to give you back that sense of loudness that you're losing because we cut 2000 because there was feedback there. It gives you a little bit more of a tool. But these are things that you learn when you work with the programs. Now, I worked with Oticon, Starkey, GN Resound, Phonak, Unitron, and I knew all of their softwares as they were coming out, and Siemens, Rexton. I mean, it made you crazy trying to keep up with them. But having that ability, because, and this is something to keep in mind, no company has all the answers for all the possible problems you're going to run up against. Don't be afraid to change programs. I explain this to patients by saying, I'm going to be fitting you based on my experience, my knowledge, and what I think is going to be giving you the best benefit with the least frustration on your part. But I can't lift up a little flap and say, you're an Apple operating system, so I need a hearing aid that works on an Apple processing system. Oh, okay, you're a Linux system, so I need a hearing aid that functions its operating system similar, compatible with Linux. We don't have labels. So if I pick something and it's not working, this is what the trial is all about. Because I want to see if I'm still batting. I was in the field for 47 years. My batting average of picking the right hearing aid the first time was probably about 850 to 900. I was pretty good.
That's a good.
But now that's been successful sales. You're going to find some where you're adjusting it and adjusting and working and working and working, and you get near the end of the trial period, and the person's going, well. And the first thing I would do is I say, okay, the problems we're seeing that I can't seem to adjust on this operating system, on this chip, I think I have another supplier, another manufacturer that uses a chip that works with a different algorithm, so a different operating system. I think that may match better. So at least you're going to get a second chance at it. So if the person's complaining that when you turn it down low enough that they don't hear the shh in the background of the hearing aid when they're in a quiet room, and you switch them to the Oticon, it's gone. And the reasoning I give them is, if I went to a doctor and he said, here, take this pill, it's going to make you better, and I take that pill and it doesn't make me better, and I go back and I say, it didn't make me better, and he goes, well, that's the only pill I recommend. I'm going to go to a different doctor.
And I have.
I don't provide one model, one circuit, one operating system. I have access to many because my job is to rehabilitate you. And that makes the patient feel that they are the priority, and that is our job. That patient is the priority. And that makes the sales worthwhile, it makes the rehabilitation worthwhile, and it makes our job worthwhile.
Absolutely, I agree, and that's the upside I look at. I'm going to get new opportunity to learn. So the life isn't anything unless you're learning and growing with it. So
exactly, and I mean, when you have a patient and you make a change and you see those tears of joy when they, it's working the way it's supposed to, and they are just happy. I mean, it makes it all worthwhile. All the aggravating patients, all the picky patients, all the electronic engineers that come in and go, oh, I could build the same thing for $30. Yeah.
Yeah, sure you can.
And well, no, the best thing to do there is, I grew up, my brother was an engineer. So, I know all the jargon. And when they start going, well, it's only doing this. Oh, really?
Tell me more about how you think you know everything.
How big would that be? How, you know, do you want a briefcase to carry around so you can hear better? I'm putting it into something like this. You know, you've got basically I think with the latest Oticon unit, it's operating as a quad core processor in something that size versus a laptop computer or a tablet.
Yep. Whole different thing.
Yeah. All right, let me let you guys go. It's getting late. I will be posting this so you can either download it or just reference it in, you know, in Blackboard. And we will call it an end. And if anybody has questions, either text me. The one thing I will stress, if somebody sends me a text, please put your name on it. Because I see a phone number and I go, okay, that's from Ohio.
That's somebody.
So just put your name on it, first, last, or both, whatever. And actually, full name is better, because if you just put your first name, my wife would wonder who Virginia was. But you know, just, you know, send me a question. I'll try to get it up. And again, as we approach the final, if anybody needs a separate Zoom session for a one-on-one, I'm open to do it. Okay?
Okay.
All right, guys. Have a good night. Be well.
Thank you, sir. Have a good one.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.